Hey there folks, just thought I'd give you guys an update on the yard, the greenhouse, the rabbits, all things permaculture here in Calgary, Alberta. But before I get into giving you guys that update, I just wanted to let you guys know that tomorrow, that's November 1st, Thursday at noon, Mountain Daylight Time, I'm giving a webinar on passive solar greenhouse design with Small Farm Academy, and I'll put the link to that channel and to that video in the show notes below. So if you have any questions about greenhouses or any of the projects that I'm going to show you today that we're currently working on, by all means show up for that session and I'll be happy to answer it. We're getting ready to launch our next 5-week intensive for the passive solar greenhouse design course, and that webinar is kind of the official launch of it. Just so you guys know, if you show up, we're going to be launching an exclusive passive solar greenhouse case study. So you'll learn about where that is located at the webinar tomorrow. And most importantly, we're giving away one spot, which is worth over $1,200 US, to our next 5-week intensive passive solar greenhouse design course. So if you're interested in taking the course, you might win if you show up at tomorrow's live webinar. All right, so this summer we got some rabbits, and you can see all the mulch on the garden here. A lot of this mulch is from the rabbit cages as a result of the summer. And so our garden got an incredible injection of fertility, which we're really happy about. And that was probably the primary reason we got some micro livestock for the garden, was just to really improve the fertility of the garden. You cannot achieve that kind of level of fertility without livestock. Livestock are absolutely essential, especially in these northern climates, to help bring the fertility of the soil up. And so we've got 3 rabbits. We've got a 4th one coming. We've bred one, so we're going to have a bunch of babies, and it's been really great. And we're continuing to evolve our systems. The system that we had this season, which they're no longer in because we're getting ready for winter, was this system right out here. And so we had 2 cages. Ideally, I think I'd like to set up a warren, which is essentially a free range system, which would have 4 or 5 larger cages, and maybe a quarter to a half of an acre each, with fence dug into the ground, and just let them kind of be free. And I think that will be one of the next things that we work on once we get a bigger property. And so what we did in here though was we lined these cages with straw, which is empty right now, so that the rabbits aren't necessarily having to be on these little bars right here. It makes it a little bit more comfortable for them. It adds a bit of labor to the process, so it means that we have to clean their cages out on a regular basis because the manure and the urine gets picked up in that straw. But that's all right. We've got a good source of straw from our friend Dakota Cohen, and I'm quite happy to go in there once or twice a week and clean it out. And you'll notice that we have these compost bins down below. These pick up any of the pellets or anything that falls through that screen as well, and then it's really easy to pick out the manure and put it down into the compost bin down below. So remembering the concept in permaculture that work is a failure in design. So these bins now have been emptied. We put them onto the garden. One of the nice things with rabbit manure is that you can put it straight on the garden without composting. We had so much though that we ended up being able to mulch our garden, plus we started a big compost for the winter time, which I'll show you here in a second. And so that will be ready for the spring. We'll have some compost for our seedlings and potentially even some microgreens later in the season. And so that's really great. Plus we've got a consistent amount of carbon and manure coming out of the rabbit system as it is right now. So because winter's coming and it can get really cold here, rabbits are actually better in the cold than they are in the warm. And so I'm not super worried about the rabbits, but one of the things that I've read and heard about from other friends that are raising rabbits is keep them out of the wind. So we're actually in the process of building a small rabbit system in our passive solar greenhouse right now, which will allow us to continue to keep the rabbits in a more of a sheltered location. And so I'm going to show you a little bit about what we're doing in the greenhouse there. One of the things that we've been working on here, or one of the things that we did to try and improve the quality of life of the rabbits, was every day, all of the rabbits, if we could help it, were in this little tractor right here. And so this just sits on top of the garden, and they would eat any of the greens that were there. They would manure it, and it gives them a little bit more of a run to run around on. Really simple thing to construct. It's got a watering place for a watering bottle there. You can put a bit of feed in there if you need to. and the garden benefits as well. Just another little project that we managed to sneak in before winter here. The yard's a bit of a mess right now because we've been madly trying to prep, but we got these little bug houses put up, and so these are going to help native pollinators find a place to overwinter. And they may not find it this year, but it'll be up for forevermore. So we got a few of those sited on the property. Another one over here on the greenhouse right here. And so really trying to help the native pollinator population in our yard. All right, so back to the mud kitchen. This is where our compost bin is, and compost is now almost complete. I mean, we've been adding some more compost to it. I'm really big fan of these Rio Temp thermometers. We've got one of them for our compost. With all the rabbit manure, we ended up getting an enormous amount of heat out of that system. We were keeping it between 50 and 60 degrees Celsius. I've got a video on composting coming up that you'll want to pay attention to. I go through how to create your compost recipes in that video. So if you're interested in learning about compost, make sure you hit the subscribe button and you'll be notified when it goes up. All right, so the greenhouse is a bit of a mess right now. We're just in the process of building this system out. And so I'll just show you some of the work that we've been doing. Basically, what I wanted to do was create a slanted table here for the rabbits so that the rabbit cages can go on this ledger up here, and all of their manure will fall down on this slanted table and get picked up. So we've constructed it out of cull lumber from Home Depot. I think it paid about $6 for that lumber. And we're going to line it with Tyvek or pond liner, haven't decided which one. And then any manure that falls down is not going to create a permanent problem in the greenhouse itself. Now you'll notice behind me, and I actually do know how to use a level, that I have this 1/2-inch PVC pipe. It's actually insulated right now, and it has these little rabbit fonts on them. Okay, and so there's 4 of them, which means that we're gonna have 4 cages right here. And because we live in such a cold climate and get to -40 Fahrenheit here, not every year, but it can get that cold, this pipe is on a slant so that if the pump ever shuts down, the whole system will actually drain down back into the reservoir, which we have yet to get. The reservoir is going to be a GOT industrial cooler, a 5-gallon cooler, which we can fill up every couple of days. And all the pipes are going to be insulated. And there's going to be a small little low wattage pump in there, which I'll make another video about in the future, which will run 24/7. And so we'll be able to put 20 or 30 degrees Celsius water into this GOT cooler, and then circulate the water constantly so that it doesn't freeze. And if the water does get too cold and does freeze, what I'll do is put a low wattage aquarium heater in there so that we're putting a constant amount of low thermal energy into the water, and so that it won't freeze. So the cages are going to sit up here. The manure is going to collect down here. We have bred our rabbits, and so we're expecting to get a litter of them. And if you've seen inside of our greenhouse, you know that we have these wicking beds. And so what I'm going to do is fabricate a cage on top of these wicking beds here, and that's going to be our brooding system. So we're essentially going to put the baby rabbits on there. One of the things that these wicking beds produce a ton of is chickweed. And so we're going to turn that chickweed problem, which really isn't a problem because we use it in our smoothies as well, but we're going to turn that chickweed into an opportunity, which is actually going to help to feed our rabbits. So we'll move this little guy right here, or perhaps we'll put some fencing in there and create 2 little brooding cages in here. And we actually end up having a lot of space to store rabbits on top of our wicking beds, which will end up mulching and manuring it for the next season, which I'm pretty excited about. So that pretty much concludes what we're doing. I'll make another update video as we get a little bit further along. If you're interested in learning more about passive solar greenhouses, check out the link below and show up on the Small Farm Academy, which is the link below, tomorrow at 12 o'clock Mountain Daylight Time. And we're going to be going through our passive solar greenhouse design process, as well as answering any questions you have about permaculture, greenhouses, rabbits, or the 5-week intensive course, which we're getting ready to launch next week. Thanks so much, guys. I hope you have a great day. We'll see you in the next video.